Farther down the rabbit hole because we like to go into topics more deeply. I'm joined today to go into these topics more deeply with Posar. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, Paula.
Great. The number to call in is 757-1393, I believe. Yeah, that's it. Good. What I wanted to talk about first was how the Joe Barton trial is progressing. And Posar has been working with Joseph Barton and his son, Jay Deberman. And I introduced the two. I'm really honored that I introduced the two because both of you, I have great admiration for how you have heroically hung in there with our judicial system to make sure people get justice.
Some people think I'm a fool for doing it. So you can't win. What's the point?
Can you just quickly synopsize your history, how you got into cameras in the court and why I'm so enamored of your experience?
Well, you're enamored. I don't know why you're enamored of my experience, but
you were the only one at St. Mark's Church when I was saying the 9/11 ballot initiative is flawed. Cynthia McKinney was there. This is how we met. And you were the only one that picked up that there was something going on, something alive. And you had collected a couple minutes footage of me speaking before they tried to move me on.
Yes, I remember
And
that.
that's how we connected.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were saying something that just needed to be investigated.
Right.
You know, it was very important.
Right.
You know, how did it happen? Cynthia McKinney was there.
Yeah.
I voted for her, as a matter
Right.
of fact.
And you were there to
Right.
videotape
Yeah.
Cynthia McKinney, but you saw a deeper level coming on.
Yeah, that was, well, you know, that was at the time Carl Pearson. I think I had recently learned, or maybe it was after that, but the biggest story is that he wanted to have the city attorney general, right, and get funds to actually do a real 911 investigation.
That would be funded by the money he would collect from corporations who were abusing the people.
Right, so he'd get his money from corporations who had to pay fines or something like that, and then he'd do a real, real investigation with things, nanothermites and 9/11, and a real investigation, stuff that wasn't left out. Maybe even the president wouldn't get to go behind closed doors, and nobody could walk out with any transcript.
Well, Carl Pearson was the person that said if the city council wanted, they could have investigated it from day one. So the thing is that the 9/11 so-called truth movement sort of hijacked his ballot initiative and then threw off the office of City Attorney General.
And that's where I was filming you, because you were actually, I think there was some talk there why it wouldn't work, because the initiative that was being brought forth by, I forget who that other group was.
Les Jameson, Frank Morales group.
The way I understood it, didn't have in their bill how it was going to be funded.
Right, so it was flawed, and yet they were collecting thousands of dollars for it.
And it just can't go because you have to, in that bill, in the city attorney general bill.
So then after you came to my place, then I learned about cameras in the court, and that's what I'd like you to...
Well, that began because I was in a court case, and I was found not guilty, and I went to sue, and I wanted the transcripts to prove that I had been wronged and victimized. And the judge would not, Judge Franklin R. Weisberg, who I think has passed on now, but he wouldn't give me the transcripts that I was a party to, that I was, found not guilty, and wanted to use the transcripts to
prove your lawsuit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To prove that I was the victim.
Right.
And he wouldn't give it to me. And Criminal Procedure Law 16050 clearly says you can get it. So as I'm sitting there and he's not answering when I'm talking to him about law, I realize that the only reason he's doing this is because people can't see him breaking the law, because he was clearly lawlessly acting.
Since you're here right now, Josh, you might want to zoom in on Jay Deberman's. This is the paperwork that Jay Deberman is going to submit to the courts I think tomorrow, and Posar, you were talking to them about it. Do you want to explain a little bit about taking back a plea and what a void judgment is, or a void? It's a different than an erroneous judgment.
Okay, you don't want to talk about the camera in the court and go into?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah,
let's do that. We were just listening to Josh Walensky and Joe Barton and Harold Channer before you came here. So
Okay.
Josh is in the control room. So if any of you want to call in and talk to Josh, he can communicate with you in the control room. And I want to say this is public access community television. We work together to give you a message from the people, of the people, by the people, and hopefully for the people, which is what Cameras in the Court was about. We would have justice if we had cameras in the court, right?
I think it would be harder to have injustice. I think it might still happen, but when you've got a lot of people, millions of people, knowing what happened at the same time as it's happening, there's a lot more
safety net, huh?
A lot more of a reason for a judge to say.
Great. Caller, would you like to talk to Posar, or?
I'd love to talk to Posar. This is only Harold Tanner calling.
Great.
Saying keep up the good work.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's a little loud there. Posar's doing great work from way back when I knew him as Shank.
Yes, this
And
is true.
a great guy. And it's too loud. Let me see if I turn down the line. It's an experiment.
Turn down the bars to the studio. Great, that's
I
better.
turned on the volume on my telephone.
No, you're
Did
good,
that
Harold. They
help?
fixed it in the control room. That's great.
Yeah, I just, also I put my telephone down. So good work. Thank you for all the good work, Paul. I think it's great what you're doing, Joe Barton and everything. So just a call of encouragement. Cameras in the courtroom. There's a big issue, and Posar, it's great to see you, brother.
Hey, same here.
So
same
just
here.
keep up all the good work. And Josh, if you're in the control room, hello, we'll see you. We got stuff lined up.
Can you have
And
the
time
one
marches
Christian
on.
in the control room? Keep talking, Harold, because I hear that as you're speaking, it's sort of woo, you know.
I don't
oscillates.
know. Yeah, you're getting it worked. You're getting it worked out. It's really good that you're doing that live thing, Paul. I think it's wonderful you're doing.
Oh,
You'll get it all worked out.
I'm so happy, Harold, because you were very unsure about doing that. As Molly says, you're really putting yourself out there in heavy traffic.
Yeah, it's just you're going to get crazy calls and stuff and everything. But anyway, I don't want to take up the line, but just keep up the good work, all.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Harold.
All right, so keep it up. We'll be in touch. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. So my understanding is that you were trying to bring a camera into the courts, and somebody took the camera, tried to take the camera from you, and you tried to protect yourself, and they call that assaulting a federal officer.
Well, that was just one of. I've actually been arrested like maybe 12, 13 times for trying to bring a camera in a courtroom.
You don't quit.
Yeah, well, I knew I had the law on my side. I know I had the facts on my side. But if you don't have the public on your side, if they can't see what's actually happening, then that's that third component that you need to win: the law, the facts, and the people.
Right.
The law, you need them all.
The law, the facts, and the people. So there you are, people. 757-1393. Especially what?
Especially when you're going against. Laws that are applied in an illegal manner, or laws that are not even applied as if they are laws. In the course of that, I started meeting a lot of people who were being, just jerked around in the courts, and records, transcripts being destroyed,
destroyed.
Things in transcripts being deleted, whole records being lost.
They don't add things to them, do they? They just delete things. I would hate to think they'd add something. I
haven't seen anything added yet, but something somewhere along the line tells me there was at least one person who had said something was there that wasn't supposed to be there. But my experience has been they take things out that I say or that other people say that they don't want, that are very damaging.
And I remember in your case, the person who said he was a federal officer was impersonating a federal officer and got you time in jail for being for deceiving the jury.
Peter
flashed a badge that transcripts will never pick up, but a camera in the court would. Can you explain that? Yeah,
I had him on the witness stand because this guy, Peter Fokianos, he works down in the Southern District of New York, the Manhattan Federal Courthouse, 500 Pearl Street. He claimed that he told me not to bring the camera in and that I chest bumped him. That's what he claimed. So I had him on the witness stand, now, and I got charged with assaulting a federal officer. That was the charge. So I got a hold of his contract, which said he cannot, he's a contract person from this company. I forget the name of the company now. It says he cannot represent himself as an employee of the United States government, a marshal, a deputy marshal, or especially a special deputy United States marshal. That was italicized in his contract. Yet he stood on that stand and he said, yeah, I'm a federal officer. I'm a special deputy United States marshal. He said that? He said that.
Did they expunge that from the transcripts? I thought he just flashed the badge.
No. But he had no reason to flash the badge unless I had asked him the question. Right? He could not just to do it, but I asked him. I said, "Are you a federal officer?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, do you have an identification card?" Because they're supposed to have identification cards just to the company they belong to, not. So he pulled it and said, "Oh, and I have a badge too. See, has the blue in the middle." That's what he said. "Oh, I have a badge too. It has the blue in the middle." That's what he said. Then
I guess that denotes the blue in the middle means you're a federal officer.
I don't know. You know, I didn't look at I didn't get it close. I should have, let me see that. Let me pass to the jury so they can.
Right.
But
you could have done that?
I could have. I was inexperienced.
So if you had assistance of counsel that knew that, they would have been in the well with you saying, ask to see the badge and pass it to the jury?
I had counsel in the well with me. You know, there were things he did that I liked, and there were things he didn't do that I didn't like. I think that would have been a timely place to have suggested that you know, question him more on that badge. That would have been a very timely.
How much jail time did you do for that?
1 year.
1 year for that. Oh my goodness.
But that was not in the transcript that he said. See, it has the blue in. I have a badge. It has the blue in the middle. That was not there. The only thing that
Posar?
Posar.
Yeah, Posar. Yeah. I want to just mention one thing. Earlier on Channel 34 on Democracy Now!, Amy Goodman had a guest, and one of the complaints of the guest was that in the middle of the trial, they turned all the cameras off. So Amy asked the guest, why did they turn the cameras off? And she said, I don't have the slightest idea. But when that occurred, the first one I thought of was the work you're doing and what you're trying to achieve by bringing cameras into the courtroom. Mm-hmm. But you can see it on the internet on Democracy Now! Later today, or any other time. Okay.
But it happened today.
It happened today.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it happened today. It was a major case, and I remember the details, but I don't want to take any more time.
Okay. No, I'll definitely get into that. Thank you, Josh. So,
you're so welcome.
You know, the taking things in out of the record, I'm running into all kind of people that are doing this. So, you know, I just see that the camera is really necessary to be in there. So, in all of that, you know, I just met all kind of people who had needed all kind of help. Who may have, you know, a lot of people are very emotional when they're doing their own cases. You know, they want.
Oh yeah, you're scared. It's scary.
Yeah, but the most damaging.
It's also kind of awesome too, because you feel you're going to get justice. You feel somewhere, if you're persistent, justice will happen, which is a nice.
Well,
feeling.
I think that is true though. I mean, you have to be persistent, but you've got to focus, because it's not like
it's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter.
Yeah.
Right?
Nor can you talk about the whole case every time you talk about something in the case, because sometimes the whole case is not really relevant to a particular point in the case. But you just want to get it out there. You know. But anyway, so I ran into you over at Cynthia's, and but somehow, I'm through dealing with you. And you work with Carl, but Joe's case comes up, right? Now, you know, I just have to say the most important thing that I personally have learned. You know, one of the most important things about Joe Barton's case, because first of all, let's just one thing: hemp oil cures cancer. Hemp oil, the Rick Simpson story. You know, hemp oil, concentrated hemp oil, cures cancer. This is the. I mean, I mean, concentrated hemp oil, which is marijuana oil, cures cancer. That's a very, that's not a little thing. People are dying, prostrate, colon, stomach, liver.
Right.
I mean, this is like...
There's a lot of things besides cancer, too.
And so here, Joe gets, I don't even know if the word busted, but he gets caught with, 47 or some amount of poundage that, from which that, you can get the oil down. Now, so what Joe's defense is, one of them, not only the fact that the police went onto the property without a warrant, without information necessary. They did not have probable cause to trespass private property. Which Ben in the studio, he's got a private property kind of case too. But,
oh, really? Fruit of a poison tree?
No. His was marshals busting into his house without looking for his brother, but having no warrant on this land, and they're without a warrant, without probable cause, as it appears to me. So they're in trial. So I meet him, and he shows me some papers he's writing, and we get to talking like a little law and things, and what he's basically saying. So Joe basically believes, and he's not alone, that he has an inalienable right to grow, use, and heal people with the hemp plant, cannabis, marijuana. An inalienable right. See, now if you ask most people what constitutes an inalienable right, if you ask 10 different people what constitutes an inalienable right, you'll get 13 different answers. But one thing Joe was constantly saying to me was that, people have been using the hemp plant for thousands of years for spiritual enlightenment, for medicinal healing, and even just as mood changes. People have been doing this for thousands of years to survive, right? So anything that mankind has been, and you can, everywhere in the world, they've been using the cannabis plant everywhere in the world. So I said to myself, this seems like what an inalienable right is. If mankind has been doing something for thousands and thousands and thousands of years in order to survive, in order to heal, and in order to achieve spiritual enlightenment, how could the United States government come along, and I think it was maybe 1930, 20, say you can't do that anymore, when it's been done for thousands of years?
3 minutes.
Anything that a person does for thousands of years has to be an inalienable right, because that's what humans have survived with and cured themselves with. Inalienable right to gather the plants of the field for medicinal purposes, for spiritual purposes, and even recreational purposes. Thousands of years. That's what's an inalienable right. So whenever an inalienable right has been taken away, the government has to then come and give a compelling reason why it's taken away. The government has to pass what's called the strict scrutiny test. Strict scrutiny says it must be a compelling interest, and even if there is a compelling interest, you can only do so much. You can only do things that will satisfy the interest. If there's a fire in this building right there on the floor, you don't come and flood the whole building to get rid of the fire. No, you come in with a hose and put the little fire out right there where it's at, leaving everything else intact. So if there's a problem with the hemp, what they should be doing is addressing that problem and leaving everything that's not a problem with the hemp, just leave it alone. And that's really the heart of Joe's argument, of one of the arguments in his case. I know Paula said 3 minutes, and maybe we'll get back to this. But Ben, I guess you can say with me. I have Benjamin Cunningham.
Yes, thank you.
No, I don't shake hands. I just kind of.
Thank you for having me as your guest today.
Right. You've been fighting this case since what was that date?
November 29, 2005.
November 29, and what happened on that day?
Well, I'm a homeowner in the Bronx, New York section of this city, and United States Federal Marshals unlawfully broke into my home with guns, handcuffs, and handcuffed me and threw me out my house in order to search for a fugitive brother of mine who was wanted. But the target house was my mother's residence on Co-op City, and because she called me and she had panicked.
And why'd she panic?
Because the marshals apparently broke into her home as a senior citizen who was in distress.
And what were they doing in her home while they were there?
Well, I wasn't there, but I know what they did in my home.
Well, what did she tell you to do? What do you think they did?
Well,
even what you think they did.
What I think they were doing was that strip searching her house, going through all her closets and her belongings, and where she keep her personal female belonging products.
And you said that they came to the house originally for your brother.
Right.
So, like if they're going through the drawers, I know they didn't expect your brother to be in one of the drawers.
No, they didn't, but they call themselves, I guess, police tactics, looking for other items that they weren't supposed to be searching for. So they were going through documents and my wife's belongings. And
no, we're talking about your mother's house.
Oh, I'm sorry, my mother's house, right. Going through my parents' personal belongings and dressers, closets, kitchen cabinets, refrigerators.
And just let me point this out 1 second real quick, because when usually a search warrant, right? There's part of the Fourth Amendment says that a search warrant will have the person to be seized, the place where you will normally find the person or the thing, whatever you're talking about. It's not, you don't just get a warrant to just do the whole house. You get a warrant to search for a person or a document, but then you even got to know kind of where the document is. You can't just, it's in the house somewhere and search the whole house. It's not even how warrants work. But let's get back. So she called you and told you about how they were
victimizing her in her home, and that's what led them over to my residence on the other side of the Bronx.
Now there was a document involved, I know, where the document said why that call.
A confidential informant.
That's the last document.
I'm sorry.
We're talking about the first document.
The first document, they claimed that they surmised that my brother was there. It was a declaration document filed to by the government to the federal judge, trying to justify their home intrusion, break-in of my private house.
And they said that they surmised
that my brother could be hiding out, the fugitive, hiding in my residence. They had no...
So was your mother called you, and if my understanding is correct, they surmised that she was calling you to tell you, maybe they were calling you because, maybe she called you because your brother might be there, so she was calling you to warn your brother that they were in your mother's house. That's what they surmised.
Warned me that my brother was there. I don't.
But they surmised from a phone call.
From a phone call.
Later on, there's a document now that says.
Well, you skipped one part. So that's what led them to my house, and as they handcuffed me, wearing no clothes.
I'm not skipping. I just want to make sure, because see, we had a contradiction point on their story. It's like first they had a document that said from your mother's call they surmised that she was warning you.
No, they didn't say they were warning. A possibility from the phone call,
but they surmised that
the brother of mine might be hiding in my home.
In a later document.
In a most recent document, they're now claiming that a confidential informant tipped them off that it's a possibility that my brother was hiding.
Might be, right. So first it went from surmising on a phone call to now it's a confidential informant.
But they don't want to give up the information concerning a confidential informant to me, the plaintiff and victim of the circumstances. They trying not to give documents concerning the arrest of my brother, any confidential informants, nothing. They don't want to, no police reports. They hiding police reports. But sad to say that when they approached my home, broke into my home and handcuffed me for no reason, wearing no clothes, I ran out my home and I was struck by a New York City transit bus loaded with transit police officers on their way to the training academy. The federal agents told the bus full of transit police officers to drive away, don't file any police accident reports.
But let me hold you up right there, because that sounds like the federal agents were telling the police department to leave the scene of accident.
Yes, they were telling the New York City NYPD recruiting officers to break the law, which they did. They obeyed the federal agents and drove away.
And you've been to the police department to try to get some kind of police report that the people on the bus made, like the driver,
yes,
or the head police?
The New York State Crime Victim Agency advocated on my behalf to NYPD, and NYPD told the Crime Victim Board Agency that no such police reports exist. And the MTA agency in Brooklyn claimed there were no bus accidents reports filed on November 29, 2005.
Now you have a document from Officer Bober, is his name? B-O-B-E-R?
Yes, David Bober is the U.S. attorney.
Hold on a second.
Right.
The Assistant U.S. Attorney, Southern District.
Right.
He's defending the marshals in
Yes.
your lawsuit.
Yes.
And he has just offered a document to the court where he said there was a bus injury, but it was your fault.
Yes.
So in the first reports, they're saying there was the MTA and the police department have no reports of a bus accident.
Yes.
And now you have a document from Officer Bober 5 years later saying there was a bus accident, but it was your fault.
It was my fault for running in the streets wearing federal handcuffs. I should have stayed in my house after they broke into my home illegally. I should have just sat in the chair and obeyed while they was destroying my house, ransacking through my home.
I just don't want to like lose this point, because it's just, because it's just the fact that first there was no accident, now there is an accident, but I don't see anybody. There seems to be no investigation of those who said there wasn't an accident.
The FBI. I had to go to the FBI agency downtown and report the situation. They invited me down, and the Federal Internal Affairs, IG, Inspector General, and everybody's trying to cover up the bus accident from the city agencies all the way up to the federal agencies. Nobody want to admit out on the record.
Well, Bober just did.
Right. Well, now they're admitting to it slightly by saying, okay, there was a bus accident, but it was your fault. But no one is admitting to the fact that the bus took off without filing a bus accident report.
Yeah, that's my point exactly.
Right.
Nobody's investigating that.
Nobody's investigating that.
How they say it wasn't, and now there is.
So what I realized, the law is written for the few, not for the many. And even though you're a homeowner, a co-op owner, you have no secured Fourth Amendment rights in your home. If the police illegally break into your home, especially federal police.
Which is what cameras in the court was about. We would have justice if we had cameras in the court, right?
I think it would be harder to have